Hi, my name's David, and today we're going to do another pair programming LeetCode problem. I know that studying for coding interviews can be stressful, frustrating, and I want to show you that it could be a fun and exciting process. Today we have a special guest, Daniel. Daniel, why don't you introduce yourself and let everyone know where you're from?
Sure. Thanks, David. My name is Daniel. I'm from New York. I'm currently a student at Columbia University's full stack coding bootcamp. We're almost done. We've got about like 2 to 3 weeks left. I actually met David by asking for help too many times from a learning assistant, and I met him twice through Zoom sessions. And at that point, I was like, hey, I know this guy, and we connected from there. So yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. This is the first day I'm actually looking at LeetCode. So, if you're stressed out, then, watch how we do it and enjoy, enjoy the process.
Nice, awesome. Yeah, it's been great working with you so far. Fun question. So since you're about to finish up your coding bootcamp, what was your biggest aha moment in your bootcamp experience?
Oh, wow, that's a really good question.
Something you
Okay,
struggled with. All right, go on.
yeah. I got you. Well, I mean, the first thing that really came to mind here was when I first learned JavaScript.
Hmm.
Because up to that point, it's just HTML and CSS, right? And then once I get introduced to JavaScript, I realized, oh, wow, there is a lot of logic involved. It's a whole new syntax for me. But once the things clicked, once I understood the process by which the computer understood what I'm typing in, from there it was just go, right? Like I was able to just code stuff whenever I felt like it. But yeah, I definitely struggled for about a day or two just to like acclimate my mind to how that language worked. But yeah, things just got exponentially easy once I figured it out.
Awesome. Yeah, I know that learning that JavaScript at first, it's very tough, but once you get to it, it's exciting.
Yeah. And actually on that note, once I also realized that all these multiple languages are uh, interchangeable, meaning you can just apply skills from one language to another. That was also an aha moment, right?
Right.
'Cause
Yeah.
it's so daunting to think about how many different languages there are. But, as I just said, like once you realize if you get really good at one language, you can pretty much pick apart another one. Um, yeah, it's a sigh of relief, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Okay. Do you mind sharing your screen and then going to number 1672?
Sure. I actually already have it pulled up.
Yes.
So, do you
Awesome.
see it?
Yes. And you're solving
Okay.
it in JavaScript, right?
That's right. That's right.
Okay. So look at this problem, take your
Hmm.
time, read the prompt, make sure you understand it, and then walk through the examples with us to make sure you're understanding what the input is, what the output is, and why. Once you got that, you may begin coding. And when we get a working solution, we'll go over the time and space complexity and review your code.
Yeah.
Sounds
Okay.
good?
Sure. All right. So,
Awesome. Go ahead.
richest customer wealth. You are given an MNN integer grid accounts where accounts is the amount of money. Okay. All right. So we have the I number of customers in J banks. Okay. Return the wealth that the richest customer has. A customer's wealth is the amount of money they have in all their bank accounts. The richest customer is the customer that has the maximum wealth. Okay, so we're going to be returning that number, the maximum wealth amount, right?
Okay.
So in the first example, we have an input with 2 accounts
Mhm.
based on those 2 arrays. The first array has just 1, 2, 3. The second array has 3, 2, 1. And the output we expect is 6 because the sum of the numbers of the first array and the second array in this case are both 6. So both customers are the richest, and so we just get 6,
Okay.
right? In example number 2, we have some differences now. we have 3 accounts, one with 1 and 5, another with 7 and 3, and another with 3 and 5. The output is going to be 10 because the second customer, the sum of their accounts is 10. 7 plus 3 is obviously 10, right? So we just return that number. Okay.
Okay.
And then finally, example number 3, similar to example number 2, except now we have 3 values in each array, and the output would be 17. Why is that? Because in the first array, within the array, we have 2 plus 8 plus 7, which is 17, as opposed to 11 from the second array and 15 from the third, right? Now some constraints. The number of accounts is m. Am I correct in saying that? The number of accounts is m, right? And then the number of, oh no, that's the number of customers, my bad. Yeah, the number of customers is m, and the number of accounts per customer is n. Okay. And then there's going to be at least 1 customer.
Right.
Oh, yeah. At least 1 customer. At most 50. 50. The amount of money is going to be at most 50, whatever. And then between
So
1
the
and
n,
100.
so n is that scroll up.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry too much about it, but you see m times n, yeah, that's the inner
Yeah.
grid. So m, scroll down. It's so each is the signifies that each account, and then the n is that the inner one has a length. Like if you look at example 3, the 287.
Right.
So that's that'll be the length of it. So
Right,
it's saying
right.
that the inner array is up most at 50.
Yeah, the number of values in the inner
Yeah.
array is at
The
most
length,
50.
the length.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Sounds good.
Okay.
Good. And then J
Yeah,
is
it looks
the
like you're
amount of money.
understanding it. Mhm.
Okay. Got you. Okay. So let's start pseudocoding. Now I'll tell you what, David, my issue with these kind of problems is, even though I think I understand it and I could code it out, my issue, I think, has been being able to talk through my mind, right? Talk through the process of how I get to the answer. So let's see how this goes. So I would say we need a for loop. I would say we need maybe a for loop within a for loop to account for the arrays.
Okay.
Within the array. However, I am aware that that might not be the most efficient method. Yeah.
Right.
But just so that you get it working, I'm just going to put that down. Okay.
Yeah, that sounds fine.
For loop within for loop to account for array within arrays.
Okay. So what are you doing inside of this inner for loop?
Sure. So within the inner for loop, I'm going to target one of the arrays in the original array. So the first for loop would be the outer for loop, I guess, would be to target the accounts array overall. Yes. And then the inner for loop would be for each array within that array. Yeah, so array number 1, like if you look at example number 1, array number 1 is 1, 2, 3. Array number 2 is 3, 2, 0. I guess I should say array number 0 is 1, 2, 3, and then array number 1 is 3, 2, 0. Okay. All right. And actually, tell you what, before that, I want to set up a variable to store the sum of what we get per array.
Per what array?
So maybe we need 2 variables, actually, now that I think about it. I think one variable, we need to store the maximum wealth. Like once if we think we have a maximum wealth amount, we store it in that first variable.
Okay.
In the second variable, I would want the sum of the current array that we are looping through.
Okay, so
And
the one will summarize all the values of the entire array, and then the second one is as you're looping through, you're keeping a running sum.
Yeah, okay, so the term that, yeah, I like the term using running sum, exactly. So
Okay.
again, yeah, the first array is what we have as the current maximum wealth, and then the second, no, sorry, the first variable is the what we have as the current maximum wealth, and then the second variable would be the running sum of the variable that we are currently looping through.
Okay.
And then
why don't you type that out before
sure,
you're going on?
Sure. Two variables. First one to store current greatest wealth. Second one to store running sum of array we are currently looping through. And then once they're set up, I want to compare those two values to see if the second variable is greater than the first variable. And if it is, I want to replace the first variable with the second variable and then clear the second variable.
Okay, that sounds like a plan.
Yeah. Now, I guess question here, this should be done within the loop, right?
Yes.
This should be done at the end of the second, at the end of a second loop.
Yeah, because we have to know when are we going to compare them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So within second loop, compare the variables. If first variable is greater, move on to the next array. If second variable is greater, then replace first variable with value of second variable. In both cases, clear second variable before moving on to the next array. All right, so this is kind of a lengthy pseudocode, but I have a feeling this pretty much sums up what we need to do. Oh, and of course, we would end by returning the first variable.
Okay,
So any
so
feedback?
so in your within the step above, you're comparing the two variables, but you're not doing anything to the second variable.
Oh, yes. Yeah, I guess, yeah, this is what I meant when I said sometimes I have a hard time talking through my thoughts, because
I'm sure you had it in your mind.
Yeah, it was in my mind. Yeah, so we need within the second loop. Actually, I should say it first. Within the second loop, we want to start adding up the numbers within an array, right? Within one of these inner arrays, and increase the value of the second variable with the next number in the array. Yeah, so if you look at the example again, the second array would start at 1, then it would go to 3, and then finally 6, right? So yeah, so within the second loop, increase value of second variable with each value of the inner array.
Okay, so walk me through your logic with example 1.
Okay, sure.
So yeah, you don't have to code it out. Like walk me through how does this look?
Yeah. So okay, we'll set up the two variables, which we can just name once we get to that point, right? And then the for loop will be set up to go through each. Well, the first for loop, the outer for loop, is just to target the accounts array, right?
Okay.
And so each value in that for loop is the entire array like the entire inner array itself. It's the entire array 1, 2, 3. Like that would be the index of 0, and then the entire array 3, 2, 1 is the next index of 1.
Okay.
Right. And then within that for loop, we're gonna start another for loop where we now target the inner array. And within the inner array, the index of 0 is 1, the index of 1 is 2, and then the index of 2 is 3. Right.
And you're adding.
And each time we go through each of those numbers, we add it to the second variable.
Okay.
Okay. At the end of that for loop, we compare the second variable to the first variable, right? And if it's greater than the first variable, we replace the value of the first variable with the value of the second variable, which initially it would, because we'll set it to 0 or something, right?
Okay.
And then we clear the value of the second variable so we can restart that process for the next array, right? So in this case, we'll start the first variable as 0. It'll be replaced with 6, and then the value of the second variable will be set to 0 again, right? And then we just do the whole thing again for the second array, the second inner array, that goes to 6. And I guess at that point, since it's not greater, we don't need to replace the first variable.
Okay.
We would just return 6.
Okay.
So yeah.
Yeah, that sounds like a plan. So let's try to code it out.
Okay, great. All right, I'm gonna leave the pseudocode up here. So tell you what, I'm gonna do the entire code beneath the pseudocode. So all right, let's use const, right? Const, I'm going to say greatest wealth. And for now, we'll set it to 0. Okay.
Wait, so this variable is going to get updated, right?
So
it's going to change.
This variable is just to store the current greatest wealth. The variable that's going to be the one for the running sum, so to speak, is the next variable.
I'm saying that this variable is going to get changed.
Yeah, it'll be changed.
So
it should not be const, right?
Yes.
It should be var
or let.
All right. Do you recommend I use let instead? Okay. All right. I'll use let. And then I guess we can use let here as well. To I'm gonna just call this current wealth.
Okay.
All right. So those are both 0.
Nice.
Right. Okay. So for let I equals 0, and this is just the syntax for an array. I is less than accounts dot length.
Okay.
And then we have I plus plus. Now within here, all right, this is where the tricky part starts. So I'm going to say let j equals 0. J is less than accounts, and then in the box we'll put I dot length, I plus plus. Right, how does that look?
What are you incrementing?
Oh, J plus plus. Sorry. Yeah, J plus plus. Right. Okay. And now we can start returning a sum to current wealth. So I'm going to say current wealth. All right, this is the part where I'm a little bit hazy on. So current wealth, add J. Yeah.
Your syntax for it is plus equal.
Plus equal. Oops. Okay. All right. Current wealth plus equal J. All right.
So what's J supposed to be?
J is going to be each value within the inner array. So should I set up a variable for that in and of itself too? Or would it save a line if I just do it this way?
You can do it either way, but that J is not getting the value you want. So.
Oh yeah. What am I saying? Hold on. Yeah, J is just the index, right?
Right.
Right. Is it
So look, okay. So look at
J?
no,
Mhm.
look at the example one.
Okay,
What are you first? What's the first value you're trying to get?
trying to get one.
Okay.
Trying to get one.
So
Why am I blanking here?
when you get the value of it, you need to know the.
The entire
There you
thing.
go.
Yeah, counts. Dot J.
So
Mm,
you want the close. You don't want to use a period. You want to use a bracket again because
uh-huh.
you chain them like together.
Oh wow. Okay. Yeah, I do not usually work with an arrays within an array. So
Yeah.
interesting.
So it's good
Okay.
practice.
Yeah, very good practice. Okay, so would this be correct right now?
Um. So that's what can we console log to make
We
sure that
can console log
to know that it's working how you want.
we can console log accounts I J, can't we?
Okay. So let's see. So what are you expecting in this console log?
Uh man, I feel like this is not going to happen, but I'm expecting like 1, 2, 3. Yeah, one of these like one of these
Okay.
numbers. Yeah. Okay, so let's run this. So output is undefined.
So that's what
Um,
we're returning, but it's the standard output.
oh, the standard
Yeah.
output is okay. So I guess we are getting what we
Yeah.
expected, right?
So it's
Okay,
getting each index value in the inner array that
awesome.
you console log.
Okay,
So
great.
you added it to current wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay, great.
what's next?
So first, how do I bring this down, man? How do
You
I
can, there should be, oh, okay.
okay, there you go. All right. So it looks like the current wealth is being added to, right?
Okay.
Once that's done, should we
So look
okay.
at your steps. You did it right.
Yeah,
So
so
you
within
just,
the second
mhm,
loop, we compare the variables. Okay,
okay.
so I'm gonna say, all right, if current wealth is greater than the maximum wealth, then
What variables did you use for this?
oh, greatest wealth. Oh my God, I'm really bugging now. Okay, all right, so
No
we're good,
worries. You can do
So
this.
if current wealth is greater than greatest wealth, then the greatest wealth equals current wealth. Yeah, and
Okay.
then we're going to set current wealth equal to 0, right? However, all right, else, then we can just say current wealth goes to 0. Now, what I'm wondering here, though, is will this conditional statement run after we add up all the values within a particular inner array?
Right.
Or
You're onto it because the ordering of it matters.
exactly. Or is this gonna run every time that
So
that a value is added?
when do you want to compare it?
I want to compare it at the end. I want to compare it once the array finishes, basically. Once one of the inner array, once we finish adding up all the values within an inner array.
Yeah. So this will get it at every single
Right.
index. So where can you move this logic of code?
We can probably move it into the outer array, into the outer for loop.
Okay.
Right? Can I try that? So we can move it out here.
Okay. Do you think this would fix the problem?
Tell you what, I'm not really sure either now because, you know what? I kind of want to try it.
Okay. So let's add a
I
console log and
yeah.
see
Yeah.
what.
So what should I console log? Or should I just,
Or you can just return
yeah, greatest wealth?
and see what the output is.
Yeah, yeah. I don't have a good feeling about this, but let's see. Okay, so input. Oh, so it worked. At least for
Nice.
this one, it worked.
You got it. So why do you think, does it make sense
It
now why it goes there? Or you're still fuzzy on it?
I think I understand. So basically, after we go through the first inner array, we would run this conditional statement. And then we'll go to the next, and you know, if it, you know, yeah, it goes to the conditional statement, whatever condition it satisfies, either we replace the greatest wealth or we just set the current wealth to 0. And then you go back into the inner array to move on to the next, the inner loop to go on to move on to the next array.
Right, because you want to finish the loop first to get the current wealth. Like, so
Right.
add a new line above lines 19,
Above line 19, okay.
enter console log current wealth. Okay, run code. And you see it gets the current wealth after each for loop.
Awesome.
So change the test case to example 2.
Yep.
Let's see. That's okay. Run code.
Oh, wow.
Nice. Okay. So now delete the console log and let's try to submit it as long as you're feeling good about it.
I am, but as I said earlier, maybe a secondary for loop is not the most efficient. Yeah, and it
You
is.
got it though.
Yeah, we got it. We got it. All right, so it's faster than most submissions, but the memory usage is less
Yes.
than
Having
90.
less memory is good.
Yeah. Oh, so it actually.
Yeah,
So
less
this is
memory is better.
efficient. Oh, no, okay. Awesome. Okay.
Okay, so let's go over your code. Any well, first, can you just summarize again what you did?
Yeah, sure. So first of all, we set up 2 variables,
Mhm.
one to store the greatest wealth that we want to eventually return, one to store the current wealth, meaning the wealth of the inner array that we are currently looping through within the second the inner for loop, right? And
Okay.
now we set up the for loop. The outer for loop is just going to go through each index of the accounts array. And then the inner for loop would go through the inner array itself. So numbers 1, 2, 3, 1, 5, 7, 3, 2, 7, 8. And then within the inner for loop, we add to the current wealth. Okay, right? Once we get that sum, we're going to compare it to the other variable that we set as greatest wealth. If it is greater, then we set the value of greatest wealth to the current wealth, and then we reset the current wealth to 0. Otherwise, we just set the current wealth to 0. And by the way, this conditional statement is within the outer for loop, because we want the inner for loop to complete adding up its values. And then we return the greatest wealth at the very end.
Great. So what would the time complexity be?
This looks like an n squared, since it is a loop within a loop. Yeah. Would that be right?
Yeah, so it will be O of n. So n will be O of n times n because there's 2 different arrays here.
Okay.
So here's what I mean. So because we're doing a loop of O of n, which is you can think of as the first array, and then within that you do it each one. So n is the length of accounts, m is the length of the inner array.
Right. Okay. So even so, I know you said n times n, but even if there were, like 4 or 5 arrays within the outer array? It would still be n times n.
Even if what?
Even if we had more than 2 arrays within the first array, it would still be.
It's impossible. It's only the condition for this problem is only a 2D array.
I see.
Okay.
I guess what I'm wondering is if the number of inner arrays increased.
So like comparing like example 1, example 2, the inner arrays
Right.
goes from 2 to 3.
Exactly. Right. So
Yeah.
so
that means that the outer, so the n is the outer array, m is the inner array.
Okay. So you said m times n. You said
So,
that was
you can type it out. Type it out as a comment. So time complexity O parentheses n times n, and then where n is the length of accounts, and m is the longest inner array.
Got you. All right. Okay.
That makes sense, right?
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay. And now what's the space complexity?
The space complexity, well, the memory we are storing would just be these 2 variables, right? With this, can I give a number as a space complexity response?
So yeah, so what are you thinking? Like it gets rounded, but yeah, so what number?
Man, I mean, there's only 2 variables, right? So
yeah, it takes up 2 spaces.
2 spaces, yeah.
So would that change if accounts gets bigger? Would that 2 variables change, or would they still stay the same?
Well, the thing is, the value of each variable is constantly changing. I'm wondering if that factors into the amount of memory being used.
So even if it's one, if it's an integer, if it's 1 or 1,000, for the sake of big O, it's still the same.
Okay.
Only if it involves a bigger data structure that takes up more space.
Got you. Okay. So space complexity, can I just type in 2?
Yeah, so it takes up 2 variables, right? So
yeah.
So and it's 2 integers. So those integers can be whatever, and they replace. So in this case, yeah, it takes up 2 space, and in big O, it gets rounded to O of 1 because it's a constant.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Because it's a constant.
Yeah.
Right. Doesn't change. I need to get acclimated with this.
No worries. I know you're new to this. And,
okay.
there you go. You got the time and space complexity. You got a working solution. How did that all feel?
I mean, it feels good to complete it. Also, I feel like a lot of these concepts like time complexity, space complexity, the way we put together this array, it's all stuff that I can understand in hindsight, right? Like once you explain it to me, once I go through it a few times, okay, I get it. Like this is very relatable stuff to math I've done in the past, but just putting it in the context of programming, it's different, right? It's different. So, with enough practice, I should be fine.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
You'll definitely get the hang of it. And
Yeah.
Good. You got the right solution. So good job. Thank you.
No problem. Pleasure.